another Hockey Talk in the Desert Southwest. We are live, Andrew Bell and myself. We are live here at the beautiful Ice Den Scottsdale. It's always nice, Andrew, coming up here, whether we have a crowd or no crowd. It's always nice because we got ice on both sides of us. There's lots of action going on, and I don't know if this place ever shuts down, to be honest with you. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. It's, thank you for having me in again, and nice to have another show here this week. But, yeah, it's great to have the two sheets, one in front, one behind us. Always some great hockey action going on, whether it's in the smallest of leagues or the biggest of leagues. And, but other than that, I'm doing pretty well. Just ready for another good hockey talk, another good week of hockey here in the Desert Southwest.
Absolutely. Well, we don't have any NCAA hockey coming up for a couple of weeks. The guys got some time off, and it sounds like they needed it. But we can talk some NHL stuff because the Coyotes are on fire right now on what they thought was going to be the hardest stretch. And I think it is still the hardest stretch, but what they've been doing is just unbelievable. So we'll get into that in a little bit. We're also going to have Josh Reynolds and his Jr Coyotes that traveled up to Lake Placid. Imagine this, playing on that rink in the same locker room that the 1980 gold medal team used, and being able to go out there and come home with a bronze medal representing the state of Arizona. So we'll have Josh and his team on in a little bit. Andrew and I will talk some hockey for you as we get going. You know, before we jump into everything, Andrew, tell me a little bit about what your thoughts were with ASU going up to Alaska, pushing a bus on Thursday, albeit just to get out of a rut. But, I mean, was that not classic?
Yeah, it's something you don't really have to deal with out here in Arizona. Coach Bowers even said yesterday they're pretty fortunate to play out here where they don't deal with anything like that. But, yeah, I think they went viral a little bit on social media because they saw ESPN picked it up and, it was on their social media, and so they had to push the bus out of the snow. But as for the hockey itself, I think Friday was a tough one. And people, college hockey fans, I know Alaska the last couple of years has been kind of rough for them, and it's nice to see that they're saving that program too, because there's a little bit of a talk of maybe them possibly cutting down athletics, but they're able to keep both those programs, Anchorage and Fairbanks, and they're kind of making the most out of the life they have. It's kind of one of those things where you almost go away, but Alaska this year, it's not kind of the same team of old. They're a good hockey team. They beat Penn State on the road 4-0. They only lose to Denver by a goal on opening night, and a couple other good wins for them in there, and they're 6-5, and they're near the top 25 of the pairwise right now. So that Friday night loss wasn't a bad loss for ASU, but I think it's one that they don't want to have. They're down 3-1. It's tough second period. The first period they came out all right. Coach Powers mentioned that the ice sheet up there, it's a bigger sheet, and so we saw those struggles last year when they were at Minnesota.
Yeah, sure did.
They had some struggles at Minnesota. It was a little bit of a similar thing kind of in the first period, and they mishandled the puck a few times, but they still come out of it 1-0. That third period, they're down 3-1. They come all the way back, only to have Alaska score in the kind of waning minutes. So that has to be a tough one on Friday night, and you give credit to the Nanooks for kind of putting that one away, especially after they were kind of beat up last year when they played at ASU. But you got to give ASU credit on Saturday night. Josh Maniscalco has a 3-point night. He just continues to impress. I feel like I mention his name every week on the show just because he's one of those guys, and I'll give my spoiler here, but keep an eye out. I'll have a story, and I know you have an interview with both of us.
We both got him this week.
Both have an interview with him this week. And so he has just been playing really good hockey for this ASU team, and shows it once more on Saturday. And, of course, he humbly goes, it was all my line mates. It was Sanchez. But every game he seems to improve, not only on the offensive end, but defensively. He's really good breaking the puck out of his own zone. They're able to kind of take care of business on Saturday, and I think they came out with a little anger after Friday night, letting that one kind of slip away. But still, like I said, Alaska is not the team of old. It's good to come out with a split in that series. It's not the end of the world, because I think that Alaska team's also going to be hanging around for one of those final spots. In the pairwise. Yeah.
Well, we both had a chance to visit with Josh Maniscalco. One of the questions I asked him was, how difficult is it to go from Oceanside to the Olympic ice sheet? He admitted that the first couple of periods they struggled. And I said, that's kind of reminiscent about coming into the national tournament for the first time. You struggled for the first couple of periods, and then all of a sudden you locked things down and you made it tight. And he said the same thing. He said, the thing you got to watch out for is you get caught outside the face-off dots, and your man can get around you in a hurry, either inside or outside, because of that extra space. So, I don't know how they overcome that, to be honest with you. But, win's a win. You take a split on the road, sweep at home. You do that all season long, you're going to be in the tournament, no doubt about that. And then if you steal one or you get a sweep like we did at Air Force, that's always a momentum builder and also a point getter, if you will, in my countdown. I think they got, my magic number, Andrew, is 18. I think they got 18 more wins to get into the tournament. That would give them one more than they had last year. I think that's important this year just because of the parity. We saw 9 ties, I think it was Friday night in college hockey. So, I mean, it's fun, right? It's getting there. And now they got 2 weeks off again, and that's the other thing that's intriguing. How do you go from China, time off, then you start the season, then time off, and then you now have a couple of games and you go like all the way to Alaska, you come back, now you got time off again. Your thoughts on that?
I think it's something, I'd say it's kind of a big dilemma for them, but it's really not just because of last season and kind of that stop-start mentality. It seemed like last year it'd be either they play every week or it'd be every other week, and so they kind of got in that habit. This is a little longer stretch, and the one thing I think about is last December, it was around holiday time, and they had kind of that 3-week break between Christmas time and when they played Colorado College, which was around early December, and they came back the first night, and they kind of got hit in the mouth a little bit by Clarkson, who is a really good team, and that's a tough one to come right back off of. That was out at Gila River Arena, so that's really the only kind of sequence I think of. And then of course the NCAA tournament, having that whole month off, and they had shake off a little bit of rust. But I think this time around it's actually a bigger benefit, and I think they know how to handle it a little bit better. And I say it's a little bit of a benefit for them because Coach Power said yesterday this team's banged up right now, and people might not be able to see it, but Phil Buncis has been out of the lineup with an upper body injury. Brett Gruber, who got injured in the Minnesota State series, has been out for quite some time. They're debating.
I was shocked to see he even got back on the ice, but
they're debating. He was out of practice this week. Didn't have a non-contact jersey on or anything, and so he was skating around, and they were kind of debating. Coach Power said either before or after the Alaska series. I think it's a good thing he gets that extra 2 weeks now. He'll be ready for Vermont,
I think so.
And so it's kind of a banged up team, and so it couldn't come at a better time to kind of have this 2-week break. I know there's always that kind of lull or kind of things that people think about where they're going to have a lull going into the next series or whatever it is, but I think it's actually a good thing just with how kind of banged up they are right now. And even guys who still played over this past weekend who have a little bit of bumps and bruises at this point in the season.
Okay, that's our wrap-up on NCAA hockey. They're going to be, like I said, off for a couple weeks, then Thanksgiving rolls in. That's going to be even odder, I think, if that's a word I can use, is odder. But how do you go from 2 weeks off, then a short week because of Thanksgiving, and then face Vermont, right? I mean, that's going to be a real challenge, but it's at home. It's at Oceanside. They're happy there. They play well there. So I don't think it'll be a big issue. Maybe just to start the Friday night game would be something, but we'll look forward to seeing that at the end of November. Let's take a quick break. Let's come back and bring in some guys that actually got to experience their own miracle with the Junior Coyotes, led by Coach Josh Reynolds. It took them up to Lake Placid, New York last weekend, and you and I were talking a little bit off camera about that, but how exciting that must have been to be in the locker room of the 1980 Olympic gold medal team and then go out on that same ice surface and actually play and come home with a medal.
Yeah, that has to be pretty sweet. I'm just thinking in my head right now, I know they got a chance to experience it, but there's no way I could step into that locker room and not a part of me want to reminisce the miracle. Of course, they had the movie that everybody knows and loves. There has to be some part of you where you just got to think back to the movie. And just go sit in that room and just maybe sit where some of the guys thought and just have that speech going through your head before that game. I know obviously there's probably some Hollywood theatrics that they put in there. It was maybe a little bit different, but that'd be a pretty cool experience, and I imagine that'd be something I'd want to do, just taking a seat, taking that all in, and probably just stepping back for a second and thinking about kind of the history that's gone on in that rink and how big of a game that was.
Absolutely. Well, let's take a quick break. Let's come back. We'll visit with the Junior Coyotes, and then you and I will come back and we'll talk some NHL hockey. Does it sound like a plan?
Sounds like a plan. Sounds good to me.
All right, let's take a break.
In 1998, Bell Road in North Scottsdale was barely more than desert landscape. Now, 20 years later, what a difference. Our programs have developed Junior Coyotes and Arizona Bobcats hockey players, elite figure skaters, as well as skaters that just want to have fun. Our partners prepare you on and off the ice, and we entertain you in the newly restyled 18 Degrees. The Ice Den Scottsdale has been the official practice facility of the Arizona Coyotes and your home for hockey in the Valley. The Ice Den, your home for hockey, skating, and most of all, fun.
Welcome in, hockey fans in the Desert Southwest, another edition of Hockey Talk in the Desert Southwest. I told you I had something exciting this week, and we do have something exciting because we've got Josh Reynolds, the coach of the 12U Junior Coyotes, right here. Josh, tell me what you guys did last weekend.
Well, we went to Lake Placid with our group here, and we pulled off, we won a bronze medal. And it was exciting. Obviously, that part's exciting, but more so the memories we created on and off the ice was pretty special. Started off a little rough. We started with 2 losses, but then we finished with three wins to win that bronze medal. We beat 3 teams from the Boston area, so it was fun.
And that was a Can-Am tournament, correct?
Correct, which was absolutely phenomenal. Well run, both on and off the ice. I can't say enough good things about what they did for us, and the tournament in general was very well run.
All right, first question is, how does a team from Arizona find Lake Placid and get an invitation to go play on a historic rink like the one at Lake Placid?
So we were tipped off by some of the groups here in this building. The group last year, that's our age group now, but from last year they said, we went. They said, you will not. It's a little rough getting there. Travel's a little rough.
Right.
But they said, you won't regret it. And they were correct. It's one of those situations. I'm an American, so being born here, the 1980 team is something you read the books, you see the movies, and to get to be on that ice, it was very special for me, and I know the kids enjoyed it as well.
All right, so tell me what your first thought was when you walked in there. Obviously, there was a lot of nostalgia, but you walk in and you start seeing this stuff that you've seen and relived on a movie. What was it like?
It was very surreal. So I will share a story with you. Probably kind of funny, but anyone that knows me knows I'm a pretty emotional guy, right? So they introduce our team in opening ceremonies. We're on that actual sheet, the 1980, they call it the 1980 rink. And they introduce us. My kids come out. They got the smoke machines going, the music. And then they said, take off your hats, we're going to play national anthem. And I was just so proud of myself that I didn't cry, because what a moment being on that ice with my kiddos and having the anthem play was pretty special. So that was just how the weekend started, which was amazing.
All right, so you travel from Arizona, you go up there. It's like 75, 80 degrees here.
Yeah.
It was a little different up in Lake Placid, New York, wasn't it?
Yeah, we left here, I think it was 85. It was a Wednesday morning, and we got there. It was, I think it was 19 degrees and snowing. No, it was very different. In fact, when we came home, we got a handful of our kids were sick. I think the long travel, the weather change, so some of our kids did end up with a little bit of a bug, but what an experience.
It's worth it when you come home with a bronze medal and say you got it at Lake Placid, right?
Sure. Yeah, the one thing I'll say about this tournament, I feel like most tournaments are predicated by your success. So if you win, you feel like, hey, that was a great tournament. And yes, we had some success on the ice, but it was so special that even if the ice didn't match, it was special, obviously, what we did, but the off ice was so memorable that it was going to be a successful tournament no matter what we did, whether we won or winning or not winning. It just so happens that we were able to win a medal, which is good. And actually, I want to add, it was a great lesson for my kids, because our first 2 games were a little sloppy. We didn't play to our potential, and then we lost on an opportunity to play for the gold medal. In the handshake line of the bronze medal game, the coach said some real nice things. He said, you know what, you guys were the team we didn't want to play. He says, you guys were the best team we played in this division, and he said, it's unfortunate you had a tough start. He goes, you guys probably deserve to play in that gold medal game. And so it's one of those where you go, what if? But it's a good lesson for my kids that you can't start out slow. You got to hit the ground running. So a good lesson to be learned that you can't wait 2 games in to get it going. So it was memorable, but it was also good lessons for the kids and us as coaches too.
All right, so tell me what the reception's like for an Arizona team now with the success of Austin Matthews and others that have come through this program. People are looking at Arizona hockey boys a little differently right now, aren't they?
They are. There was some questions. In fact, one of the guys in the hotel, I saw an Austin Matthews jerseys on one of the adults, and so that sparked up a conversation. But yeah, for sure, I think people do look at us a little different. He obviously put us on the map, and I want to share a story. Actually, there was our kids were outside playing in the snow, playing football when we first got there, having a blast. And there was another team there that they were throwing some stuff at our boys, just kind of boys being boys, right? But there was a Canadian team that showed up, and they were 1 year older than us. They're Bantams, and they kind of befriended our kids and built this relationship. They were staying in the same hotel, and the boys nowadays with social media, they started following each other on Instagram and all that stuff. But they became friends, and then the boys started going to each other's games. So from there on out, we were going to watch those kids play. They came and watched us play, and it was extremely special to watch that. That was organic. Like, those kids did that. 12 and 13-year-old kids forming a relationship, and that was very neat to see, and it's something I'll never forget. Just watching in our bronze medal game, I look over, and there's about 8 or 9 of them watching us, and they had a game themselves an hour later. So that was pretty special. So when I talk about the off ice stuff,
right.
Of course the on ice was the medal, and we can show that off. But it's those off ice memories that's the things I'll never forget from that tournament.
Talk a little bit about your team and building your team down here, and how good they are to take them across the country and compete, walk away with a medal on that. What's it like to build your team in Arizona?
Well, I'll tell you, this is my first group, or first year with this group. I was lucky enough to be an assistant coach with them last year, and then this year was lucky enough to be the head coach. And so a lot of returning players. But yeah, we circled this tournament. We went to Nashville a month ago, and that was exciting. It was a Tier 2 showcase, which is, a lot of the AAA kids get to do the showcases, but they had a Tier 2 showcase for us AA folks. And so we went on a tournament already, but I'll tell you, we had this Placid trip circled on our calendar. We were ready for this, and so we've been looking forward to it. So our practice plans, everything we've been doing, we've been building up for this. And it's only mid-season, but we wanted to have a good showing. And so to answer your question, to build off that, we've been eyeballing this, and the things we did were, we were excited to see where we're at as a benchmarker halfway through the year, to see where we're at, how we stack up against those teams. And in our division, there was 4 teams from Boston area, 1 from Canada, and then us. And you know what? Those are some good hockey markets, and we hung. We didn't. There was no games that were lopsided either way. So it was nice to know that we stack up against those other teams from around the country.
Okay, so you coach 12U,
right.
But obviously these kids are starting to get an eye for what they can do and where they can go, where they can play. Some of the kids that play in the 14, 16U, 18U are now getting opportunities to play NCAA hockey and beyond.
For sure.
What does that say about the growth of hockey right here in the desert?
I think it speaks volumes, right? And I think being in this rink right here, in fact, as we watch these kids play, we're so lucky to be here in the state playing, and for me personally, getting to coach with this organization, I'm so blessed and so lucky. And these kids have no idea. You walk around this rink, you see Coach Powers from ASU, you see Doan, you see on our bench you've got Coach Slaney, his daughter plays for us, and he's a coach down there with the Tucson Roadrunners. I mean, these kids have no idea the resources that they have available to them, and so we are very, very lucky as coaches and these kids to have the people around this rink to develop them and kind of show them the way.
All right, obviously hockey's not a cheap sport. Making trips across the country like that aren't easy.
Yeah.
What do the Junior Coyotes do to fund all this?
So, well, I'll say this: you gotta give the stick taps to the parents on that, right? So the parents foot the bill for a lot of this, but there is some fundraising that we do, and every team does their own fundraising. So this year we're hoping to do a 50-50 raffle to Coyote game, but there's things throughout the year that you try and do as a group. So you do some fundraising, but a lot of this is shouldered by the parents. So, and I'll tell you, after our semifinal game, to push us to the bronze medal, I pulled the kids in. And I told them, I say, hey, this is a good opportunity to thank your families. So
Right.
we went out there and we gave our families a nice little stick tap
nice.
salute. So yeah, so I want the boys to know how, and Julia, we have one gal on the team. I want these kids to know how lucky they are and that these parents support them. And so I wanted to show that appreciation, and they did a great job doing that.
Okay, so you said you're about halfway through. What lies ahead? What are the goals? Where do you want to achieve? And what's next on the schedule?
So Anaheim right after Christmas is our next tournament. That'll be a drive trip. And then we're going to Boston in February. So another long East Coast trip against some good teams. And then, so at this point now is just to continue to build. Of course, you'd love to have a banner in one of those tournaments, but we're eyeballing the end of the year, and the goal is the state championship. Right now, I believe we're 6-1-1 in division play, so we're doing well. doing well, but obviously things to work on. So it's obviously continually looking at games, practice plans, and just trying to always tweak things to always look and make and improve the team. And so, but I would say the eye on the prize would be state championship at the end of the year.
I hear you. Okay. So I tipped you off to a little thing that was announced today. I've known about it for about 2 months.
Yeah. Oh,
but
that's awesome.
in Vegas, they're going to be doing a Relive the Miracle, where they're going to bring back everybody that's available, which I understand is almost everybody.
Okay.
They're going to have them in Vegas. They're going to be a part of a Vegas Golden Knights game. They're going to be a part of an event, I believe, at Thomas and Mack at UNLV, where they're going to have the players on the center of the court, and they're going to replay videos and do different things like that and then interact with them. So it's going to be a really fun weekend, and I thought this is really cool. It just so happened that they announced it today.
That's cool.
We're going to be a big part of it all weekend long up there in late February.
Okay.
And it's 40 years ago.
Yep.
So when you think 40 years ago, your kids probably only have seen Miracle in the movie, right?
For sure.
I remember back when I was in Minnesota, a 17-year-old kid, watching it upstairs in my old Victorian house on a 13-inch black and white TV with one of my best friends playing on the team. So that was even cooler.
Yeah.
But that was tape delayed, and to see where hockey's come so far. But my point is, the growth of hockey since we started Ice Time Hockey Southwest is that we wanted to grow the game, and I can't tell you how much has grown in 5 years. You've been around a little longer with the game here. Tell me what the growth has been like, and has it met your expectations or exceeded it?
Well, I think you have to say exceeded it. I have been around a little bit, not with the game, a little bit with coaching, but I had a clothing company called Swag Hockey that I did for a while, and I put that on hold because you only have so much time in the day, and coaching means more to me than running the business. So I put that on hold, but you have to look around. It's not just, not just the travel programs, but it's the house programs. It's the Kachinas. It's an all-girls program that's traveling around the country, and they're successful. It's definitely exceeded my expectations, and I think what you got to think is, where are we going to be in 5 years from now? I mean, who knows, right? It's exciting for the future, not just here in this building, but throughout the state. I mean, the state of Arizona, the hockey is doing well. It's growing, and I'm excited for the future.
Okay, I wouldn't let you go without talking about the namesake. You got the logo on your hat, but tell me about the Arizona Coyotes and the growth of them and the way that NHL franchise has turned it around.
Oh, yeah, it's phenomenal, right? You got to give credit to Chaika, right, the GM, and obviously being in this building. Once again, I always come back to where we're at here, how lucky these kids are. We have an ice slot Sunday morning, and if they have a Sunday evening or afternoon game, they're in here for morning skate. So it's not uncommon to see those guys skating on the ice that we're on Sunday morning. So it's pretty special. But that group's doing well, and you knew it was coming. But now they're actually doing it, right? Someone like Garland stepping up, or Schmaltz, who's really exceeded my expectations. And I look at where they're at right now, and Keller's a little slow to start, and Kessel's a little slow to start. When they get the big boys going, imagine where this team's going to be. And right now they're doing well. They're doing so well. So I think it's exciting because they're young, and so I expect playoffs this year, and what a great thing for the state of Arizona to have our big boy program. Fun to cheer, something fun to cheer and go to the games, and it's exciting.
I made a statement to Aaron Cohen. I had him on earlier a couple of months ago. I said, I think, and I'm going to make this bold statement, that we're going to see a Coyotes team that's a perennial powerhouse, playoff powerhouse for the next 10 years. And I say that because with Mr. Morello coming in as a new owner, and you see what he wants to do, and the influx of money and the job that John Chaika's done, and we can't forget Aaron Cohen coming in and running the program now as the president and CEO. You feel the same way?
I do. I think you look at all those pieces, everything you just brought up, and everything's in place. I think it was just, and the reason why I bring up people like Garland and Kessel and Keller, more so Keller, and the young guys that are signed and they're locked up long term, Chikrin, and we have two number one goalies. I mean, we just have everything's in place. And I was sad to see Tippett go. I really like Coach Tippett, but you got to look at what Coach Tockett's doing. He's doing a phenomenal job with this group. So everything's in place now. It's just up to that group to continue to make it happen. But I agree 100% with you as far as everything's in place from ownership all the way down.
All right, Josh, I appreciate your time. Congratulations on a medal.
Thank you,
got it in your pocket, or where do you got it? Let's see what it looks like.
I do. I brought it by. I brought it by. So there's
the only thing that could be better than that would be a real gold from there. But doggone it, a bronze is a great finish, and
it is.
So proud of you guys and so proud of what you do to represent the state of Arizona and the Desert Southwest. So congratulations from our staff to yours.
Well, thank you very much, sir. I appreciate it. Thanks for the time.
No problem.
Behind the Mask Hockey Shop, celebrating 25 years of exceptional service to the Arizona hockey community, offering the top brands and an educated staff of hockey players to help you choose the right gear for you. Visit any one of our 3 Valley locations or check us out online at behindthemask.com.
All right, we're back here at Hockey Talk in the Desert Southwest. This is a Wednesday show. We do it all the time. You'll see it on Friday, though, but we tape it on Wednesday night, midweek, try to get everything wrapped up before the games start for real. So we just had a chance to see and visit with the Junior Coyotes. We talked about it leading into the break, right? But, I think back to the 1980 Olympic game, right? You're way younger than me, so you weren't even born then probably, but I'm 17 years old, right? Imagine me in northern Minnesota, a town of 2,500 people, in my bedroom of upstairs of an old Victorian-style house with a very small 13-inch black and white TV, and I'm catching this game that was tape delayed, right? And I have a personal friend who's playing on that team, right? I mean, Neil Broughton and I grew up together. And I knew he was going to make that team, and I knew that he would be on the team. And all of a sudden I'm watching this thing, and I'm going like, it's so surreal, right? So you're from a younger generation. Is it still surreal? And do you think about the actual game? Do you think about the movie? What do you think about?
I just think of, you think about the movie, but then on top of that, me being kind of the hockey fanatic that I was growing up, you research that game a little bit more and try to watch. I know they've had various documentaries just about, the game itself. I've got a chance to watch a lot of those. I think ESPN did one from the Soviet side of things, and just kind of what went into. It wasn't just a hockey game. It was a whole bigger picture, obviously,
and
going
there
into
was so much more to it.
Yeah, exactly. There's so much more to it. There's, political meaning to it, obviously, and it really set the stage. And obviously, I wasn't around back then, but I think for future generations of USA hockey, I think when you talk about tradition at any level, whether it's the national level or the collegiate level or at the NHL, you want some sort of tradition with your program. And at the Olympic level, one thing that you can always look back upon whenever the Olympics roll around, and obviously it'll be nice to have hopefully one day the NHL players playing back in the Olympics. It was different back in that 1980 team. But you want that sort of tradition, and it seems like when I was growing up watching the Olympic games, and you think about the gold medal game that USA, pardon me. So flip it around, So that USA, had against Canada, and I think about 2010, how big of a game that was.
Yes.
It's a different stage, but even on those broadcasts, they'd flash back to the 1980 gold medal team and kind of what happened in Lake Placid. So there's just so much history that goes into it, and I think from generation to generation, it's kind of one of those things that gets passed along. I wish I was around to witness it. Even my dad tells me back then, even he was keeping an eye on all the way out in California and keeping an eye on that game. So it's kind of that tradition that lives on through each Team USA team that you see, whether it's at the Olympic level, at the even World Junior level. It's something that guys take pride in, to wear that USA kind of sweater and just put it all out there for their country.
Well, put it this way. It's 40-year anniversary this year. I know there's something big coming up. I can't say it yet. We're waiting for the official announcement, which we hope comes either tomorrow or Friday. But once that happens, I think it's going to be something that people in the Desert Southwest are going to be really excited about. At least I hope they are. 40 years of the Miracle on Ice, and it's going to happen on the same weekend basically as it was 40 years ago. So it's going to be a lot of fun. That'll be coming down the road. All right, time to get into our NHL talk. You and I both like to talk. I mean, you like to talk about your Sharks and tell me how good the Sharks are. I like to I like to tell you about the Coyotes and the Golden Knights, which are in our demographics here of Ice Time Hockey Southwest. But all right, let's start with the Golden Knights, right? They have been the flip side of the Coyotes, right? They just can't seem to get it rolling. And I know your Sharks are struggling the same way, but give me your thoughts on the Vegas Golden Knights and what you have seen from the first, dozen or so games.
Well, first off, I think it's really interesting, just the Pacific Division. It's what nobody thought it would be. Everybody thought kind of that be Vegas. I mean, if I had my preseason predictions on who the top three would be in the Pacific, probably would have been Vegas, and then either Arizona or San Jose. Some people might not have thought Arizona, but I think just what they did in the offseason, that was garnered a playoff team. You're starting to see it. That's kind of one of the things that always puzzles me is everyone looking at the Coyotes kind of like, surprise, you look at what they did this offseason. I know.
Look what they did last year. They were a point away.
Yeah, and that's without, a lot of guys in their lineup. But, that's who I would put my top 3 as. It's been the complete opposite. It's been Edmonton, Vancouver, Calgary in the mix, Arizona in the mix, Vegas right behind them. And so I think the Golden Knights, offensively, they're as good as anybody in the NHL.
Yeah, no doubt.
Such a good transition game. They're really good on the boards and so many weapons. Marchessault, Smith, obviously Pacioretty, Carlson,
Mark
you go
Stone.
down the line. Mark Stone, you think about those guys that go down the line. But I think it's not the forwards that have been kind of the issue this season. I think it's a little bit of a lack of defensive depth. You lose Schmidt at the beginning of the year, and that's a big blow. Obviously, Golden Knights fans dealt with that last year too, but I think losing him on that back end really hurts. And Marc-Andre Fleury's been fantastic. He's been it seems like he's like fine wine or something like that.
Really
every
is.
year he gets a year older
really
and he
is.
just gets a little bit better. He's been stellar in net though, and Malcolm Subban kind of has had his up and downs. It was a really fun game to watch last week when they were in Toronto, and that was a marquee matchup, and he played really well. Just came up a little bit on the wrong end of the stick there, but I still think the Golden Knights have all the makings of a team that can make a deep run come playoff time. And like I said, some really good weapons up front and a really solid offensive hockey team. It's just a matter of kind of stabilizing that defensive end of the ice. Obviously Schmidt back now, and then you got Shea Theodore in the mix, but I wouldn't be surprised to see maybe at the deadline or around then if they try to do something, or if they just look down to Chicago and see if they can do something there, because I think the defensive end of the ice has really kind of been what's been lacking for them this year. And I know they've probably addressed that in the room and try to get better at it every day.
I think that's a great point, and I think what they're doing right now, if you can see, is they're managing cap space. I mean, they just sent 3 guys down for 2 days to manage cap space. So they're thinking about something before the trade deadline or at the trade deadline. There's no doubt about that. Personally, I would say in the Mark Stone trade, they traded Eric Brandstrom, which I think was the mistake. I think he was the player you wanted to keep. He was a good two-way, a lot more offensive than defensive. But you know what? You pair him with a steady defensive player like a John Merrill, somebody like that. Now you have somebody that can move the puck for you. And I think that's where they're struggling right now, is getting through center ice, getting into the attacking zone. And they'll get it. It'll come around. But the other thing is you get little things like Shea Theodore, an announcement that he had testicular cancer at the start of the season, and now he had to overcome that and get his legs back and get back into hockey shape. That took a little time. Alex Tuck has had 2 serious injuries already this season. He comes back, and in the first or second period of the game he comes back in, he gets injured again with a shot to the head. So, I think all of those things together have left them a little bit behind. But let's roll into the team that's shocking the world, if you will, the boring Arizona Coyotes, as you brought up last week, the comments that were made from Canada about this team being boring. How boring are they?
Well, based on their last 2 wins, I'd say the boring meter is starting to go down and the excitement level is starting to go up a little bit. The first time ever on consecutive days that the last 2 Stanley Cup teams that have won the Cup have been beaten. That's what the Coyotes did, and you have to tip their cap to them. Yesterday wasn't their prettiest victory of the year by any means. I actually thought St. Louis outplayed them a little bit, but if you look at the outlying factors, there's a reason they outplayed them. St. Louis is a hard, heavy, physical team. They're at home, and the Coyotes, after that Washington game Monday, didn't get into about 3:30, 4:30 in the morning,
Right.
And they're coming off that back-to-back after a really good game against Washington, who's a very quick team and very good with the puck. You got guys like Evgeny Kuznetsov. Coach Stockett mentioned the other day how good he was in that
he had a
game on
couple of
Monday.
goals, so he's all right.
He's a heck of a player. Obviously got Ovechkin to deal with, and just a lot to handle. And then you go into St. Louis, who kind of opposite to Washington, where they're more of a speed and skill team. St. Louis still has skill, but they're a hard and heavy team, and you got to deal with that physical play. And so the Coyotes, kind of like a boxer going through 12 rounds, just hung through that fight. They're able to get goals when they need them. How good of a story was Clayton Keller getting his goal in his hometown? There's a great story this week, if you haven't checked out, by Craig Morgan, who I know you've talked with. But just talking about Clayton Keller and growing up in the Missouri area and around, attending Blues games going up, and had a basement and where him and his brother just used to shoot pucks for hours on end and broke a couple windows. It's a great story. Like I said, if you haven't got a chance to read it, go check out Craig Morgan of The Athletic. He just posted earlier this week. But just a gutsy team win in St. Louis. I think that was the more impressive win out of the two. Obviously, the negative of the Washington game is another late lead that kind of gets away from them. That was the third or fourth time over the past week that's happened. But to the Coyotes' credit, they didn't flinch when that happened. They just continued to progress forward, and they're able to come out with 2 shootout victories. And can't say enough about Connor Garland and Nick Schmaltz too. How good are they in the shootout? Those are some weapons to have. So yeah, and such a luxury for Coach Stockett to have when you get to a shootout, just to point to those 2 guys on the bench. You haven't even needed to get to the third guy the last couple games just because of how good those guys have been up in the first 2 shooters of the shootout.
Okay, so I had a chance to go out and watch the game last Saturday night against Minnesota. I saw that 3-1 lead disappear. I made a lot of comments to myself and on social media when I was watching that game. But the first thing I saw was, I called it the monster line, right? And I figured out the weight and the height, and I think it was like this line of Soderberg, Krause, and Christian Fischer. I think they weighed in at over 664 pounds between the 3 of them, and they were over 18 feet tall if you stood them end on end. You put those 3 on an offensive line, right? And how dominating and how much they could open up the ice. I know they didn't stay together on this trip, but it was so much fun to watch. And then on the other side of the coin, you watch the speedsters, Vinny Hinostroza, you watch Connor Garland, you see Clayton Keller, and you see all these guys, and the lone guy out there is Phil Kessel, where he's kind of stuck in the middle. He's not this big bruiser, but he's not as fast as the young kids anymore. And the arena, Gila River Arena, was ready to explode every time he touched the puck. So when Phil Kessel starts scoring, which is going to happen, that place is going to go crazy, and that team's going to really pick up an asset.
Yeah, and it takes a little bit of time just to develop with a new organization. I think, Kessel's still kind of getting his bearings under him a little bit. Not that it's a new system, but just a new atmosphere and new players to play with. Of course, a couple of familiar faces with them. Coach Tocchet, most notably, having their days in Pittsburgh together. But it takes a little bit of time, and he's not playing bad hockey. That's the thing that you might not see it in the goal column, but he's not playing bad hockey. He's buying into their system, and he's doing the things that they need to get victories. But getting back to your point with that Krause-Soderberg line that you're talking about, I think those guys at the forward position, there's been a couple injuries on the back end, but at the forward position, those guys have been, there's a lot of depth there this year. When you have Barrett Hayton, who can get scratched one night and then slot in and then come in and be productive, that provides a lot of depth. And you mentioned Vinny Hinostroza, Connor Garland, guys, kind of smaller guys with a lot of speed and skill. They bring in their assets, but the one thing that stands out to me about that Soderberg line, usually with power forward lines like that, the one thing you worry about is, can they get back on the play when you're going up against the Edmontons of the world? Lawson Krause and Christian Fischer, I'd say Lawson Krause and Carl Soderberg, out of kind of those 3, they can skate with the puck too. They're big horses, and when they get going, they can keep up and get in on the back check on the defensive end of the ice too. It's not like when they're playing the Edmontons of the world that they get caught up on the back end. They can catch up to them. They're good on the back check, and they can skate the full length of the ice. So I think that's really beneficial to them. And there's not really any guys who are kind of lugging the skates this year. And there's that mix of those power forwards with those guys with speed and skill, and then you're just waiting for Stepan, Keller, and Kessel to all explode at the same time. And obviously you see Keller with a couple goals last couple days just with those 2. But there's a lot of depth at that forward position that continues to, I don't even think it's reached its maximum potential yet.
I think you're right. We'll wrap up our NHL talk with a couple of things. The first thing is, it's going to be a big week next week with Austin Matthews and the Maple Leafs coming both to Vegas on Tuesday night and then on to Arizona on Thursday night. A lot of fans are looking forward to seeing Austin come back and play. obviously the Maple Leafs are playing pretty well. They got a pretty stacked lineup as well, at least at the very top. So we'll be looking forward to that. The other thing I just want to get your thoughts on before we end this segment is, tell me a little bit about Dave Tippett's return to the Pacific Division and being up at Edmonton. I know Dave pretty well. I know, and I kind of expected what's happening, especially when you got a guy like Connor McDavid on your team and you're coaching him. But give me your thoughts on just the impact that Dave Tippett's made.
I think he's doing a pretty good job of kind of cleaning things up a little bit in Edmonton. And the one concern I'd say with that team, if you're an Edmonton fan and you're kind of looking at that lineup, is the depth. Because there's only McDavid and Leon Draisaitl are getting a lot of ice time. And I think it was something like 23 minutes a night, might be more as forwards, and that's a lot of ice time. So I think the one thing you get concerned about is, can that hold up for a full 82 game season? I personally don't think it can, and that's maybe where that secondary scoring comes in. But as for Tippett himself, I think he's done a really good job of kind of steadying the waters in Edmonton. I think they're playing a lot better defensive hockey, and then when you have two world-class players like McDavid and Draisaitl, everything else kind of works out for itself. You have former Coyote and Mike Smith there, and Koskinen behind him has been playing very stellar as well in net. And so, I think it's good for him, and his era here in Arizona might get kind of downplayed just because there were some rough years mixed in there for a lot of outlying factors just aside from himself too. But overall, I think Edmonton's in a good spot right now along with Vancouver. And like I said, if you would have predicted those two teams near the top of the Pacific Division to start the year, it might be different. But with all this being said, there's still a lot of hockey left to be played in the season. I think those standings are going to change. I think if someone asked me, are you still feeling good about your picks? I'd say I'm still feeling pretty good about my picks. At this point in the year, like I said, there's a lot of hockey left to be played. I would still stick with those three near the top of the division. Maybe Edmonton stays in that top three, though. That'd be maybe my one slot out for San Jose. So, there's still a lot of hockey left to be played in the season, though. But right now, those are the teams kind of trending up and down throughout the Pacific.
All right, let's take another quick break. Let's come back. Let's talk a little bit of ACHA hockey. I want to touch on two different things. First, ACHA D1 hockey and just how good that caliber of hockey has become in just a very short period of time. 4 years, basically. It's gone from rock bottom to possibly 3 teams into the national tournament this year from the West. We'll talk about that. We'll also come back and recap my day and your day. We're both out there on Tuesday, but we'll talk ASU hockey because we've got a 10-5 ACHA D1 team. We've got a 10-2 women's team, and we've got a 6-4 NCAA team. So we'll come back and talk that in just a minute.
Hey, Michael here from M-Drive. My dad, a world-class scientist, actually made M-Drive for himself to stay active and continue enjoying life. And yes, M-Drive supports healthy testosterone, but it's so much more. M-Drive is the everyday supplement to fuel your drive with more energy and more strength. Listen, we'd love for you to try M-Drive too. Visit mdriveformen.com and we'll give you 20% off your first purchase. Just type in the code DRIVE at checkout. Refine your prime with M-Drive.
Welcome back in, hockey fans in the Desert Southwest. This is Hockey Talk in the Desert Southwest. It's our weekly show, our 1-hour show. Andrew Bell sits in with me the first 2 weeks of the month. And then the third and fourth, we kind of roam around and do some different features. But we've had a chance tonight to have the Junior Coyotes and their trip to Lake Placid on. We talked NHL. We talked NCAA. There's one other group, I think, in the Desert Southwest that deserves some credit, and that's the ACHA level, D1 especially. What we've seen in the last 4 or 5 years and the growth of, not only the growth, but also the competition level with U of A playing really well, UNLV playing really well, and ASU, as we mentioned, 10-5, and Grand Canyon in their very first year. They've taken UNLV, U of A, and ASU to overtime. Unfortunately, they haven't been able to scratch out a win on those, but that just tells you how the competition has come along. So you've seen hockey around here for the last 4 years. Tell me a little bit about ACHA hockey and what you thought.
I think at the ACHA level, things just continue to grow. I think that's been sped along kind of by, UNLV's success. And then not only that, but Danny Roy over at GCU, kind of getting them up to the D1 level. It just balances
Quickly.
out. Yeah, in just a span of a couple of years. So that balances out kind of the parity of high-level hockey, and there's a lot of different routes to go for college kids who are coming onto these campuses, and suddenly they start to hear about the different venues. Vegas has a great venue. GCU has, every game I've gone to, the place is nearly booked, sold out at Arcadia, and then Tucson, you have an AHL facility and a convention center that's full of students. So I think the word is starting to get out about those ACHA programs, and I think I know your prediction was that all three, in the Southwest between UNLV, U of A, ASU, possibly GCU down the line, get into the tournament. I think they're all going to be better.
They'll get this year, obviously, but next year there's a chance we could see 4 teams.
Yeah, and like I said, you have to give a lot of credit to GCU. They're playing competitive hockey. The record might not indicate it, but it's tough going up, stepping up here and going to the D1 level. It's a different brand of hockey. Guys are maybe bigger at the D1 level, and I know down the line a lot of people will like see NAU maybe move up a little. Just makes it that much easier for everybody else travel wise and trying to cut costs. So I think it's an exciting brand of hockey, and I think for people who are at these campuses, it's a great way to stay involved with hockey and play at a high level and be a part of something special at these 4 different destinations. And they're both having a lot of success right now, and I think it's just going to continue. And like I said, there's a lot of high level hockey at all of these campuses that are being played right now.
You and I both know really well about NCAA hockey, right? We know the benefits they get. They're still student athletes. They still do things, but it's not quite the same. ACHA guys have to pay their way, right? They got to pay or fundraise to get onto a team and play on that team. Then they got to travel in a bus most of the time. They'll take some airplanes every now and then, but most of the time it's long bus rides. And then here's the kicker, Andrew. They play sometimes Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And this last weekend, Oklahoma and Central Oklahoma came to Arizona, right? Oklahoma, for example, played Thursday night, late night start at 8 o'clock. That game didn't end until 10:30 against ASU. Then they went to their hotel and they got on a bus early because their next game was in Tucson at 1 o'clock on Friday afternoon. So that recovery time, then they got a 24-hour period before they played again at 1 o'clock on Saturday. But man, oh man, you got to give these guys some credit for just sticking it out and fighting through that.
Yeah, and ACHA hockey it truly is for the love of the game. And when you're putting in that much time and effort and dedication, I know we'll get to the women's team too, but even ASU, they're practicing at 7 a.m. They're putting in a lot of hours, and like you said, these aren't kids on scholarship. These are just people who are playing for the love of the game, and it's brutal with some of those schedules and trying to have some of those back-to-backs, but I think it just continues to grow, and I think the more interest that kind of grows, not only between players who are interested in coming out to play ACHA hockey, but between the campuses and the fan bases, the more word that starts to get out about them, the more they start to develop. But then who knows, maybe down the road, ASU is a unique case because of the money that they got funded into them, but maybe you can see a team like UNLV make that jump to the next level, and then all of a sudden the playing field and the discussion of hockey kind of in the Southwest starts to grow and starts to elevate. So like I said, it's a brutal kind of living, I'd say, for students, but like I said, it's all for the love of the game at the end of the day.
Speaking of love of the game, the ASU women made another road trip. They yet to play a game at home. That's coming up next week, where they finally get a chance to play Utah in front of their home fans. And I was out Tuesday morning. The girls are so excited to play a home game in front of their fans. They've got big things planned for the Inferno. They're going to bring some ASU fans out and get things rocking at Oceanside. But last weekend they traveled to Michigan. You want to talk about tough trips? Go to Michigan and play the games that they did. Jordan Nash Bolden, 61 shots against Adrian College. They went 2-1 on the weekend, but man, oh man. And I had a chance to visit with Kat Jones, who had back-to-back hat tricks, her second and third of her college career as just a sophomore. 2 things that stuck out to me with that. I asked her, I said, how are the road trips? She said, I love them. And I'm going like, really? She goes, yeah, it's just so much fun to be with all the girls and have that fun. Here's a little side piece on it. She's from Pittsburgh, right? I said, you grew up a Penguins fan? She said, I still am. And I said, so you're a big Mario Lemieux fan? She goes, yes. I said, did you know that Austin Lemieux plays on the NCAA team? She said, I did. And I said, have you met him yet? She said, no. I said, well, we got to fix this. You've been on campus a year and a half now, and you haven't met Austin Lemieux from your same hometown? Come on, ASU, let's get this fixed up.
Yeah, that would certainly be interesting. I know over the weekend she played, she's been really good for their team and
incredible.
Among one of the leaders on the team. From every time I talk with Coach Ellis and stay in touch with her, and I think it was Jordan I saw on social media who called it a cat trick.
Yeah,
so
that's a good one.
Yeah, they're playing really good hockey right now, and I think she's just one of the players who has continued to impact that program, and they get better and better every year. So, it should be interesting to see them have a home game. Utah is a relatively new.
They're a brand new program.
Yeah, they're a brand new program too, and kind of a little bit of a cool dynamic because you have two. I know they're not in the Pac-12, but two kind of Western teams.
Yep,
yeah, so and so that just adds to kind of the WWCHL, kind of what they're developing out here. So Utah's a new program. I'm assuming they'll be pretty excited to play a game on home ice, and it should be pretty interesting.
One thing I always give credit to the ASU women's team for, too, is they always find ways to involve the fans, right? It's a theme night all the time. It's like, military night. It's Pink the Rink. It's, they have something going on all the time, and that's really cool. Speaking of that, let's transition into it. As you can see, the beard is continuing to grow. It's Movember. It's a tradition for me anyway. I grow the beard out, usually for a cause, for men's health and Hockey Fights Cancer, which is going to be a big night Saturday night for the Arizona Coyotes, which I'll be out for that one as well. But this time it hit really close to home. Hiroki Wakabayashi, who is a good friend of mine and the director of goalie instruction for Desert Youth Hockey at Oceanside, found out about a month ago, 3 weeks ago, that he had a very rare blood cancer. He started his chemotherapy treatment this week. Anybody that knows Hiroki knows he's a fighter, but Hiroki's not very big, right? And this is a battle, right? He's going through chemotherapy. They got a GoFundMe page going. Ironically, I believe by an ASU commit coming down the road. His dad, I believe, is the one that started the GoFundMe page. I might be wrong on that one, but it's growing quickly. So search that out on GoFundMe. We're jumping in to try to do what we can do. I offered Hiroki, I said, what would you like me to do? And he said, nothing. I knew he was going to say that. I said, how about wristbands? And he said, no, I don't want wristbands. I said, how about this? How about if we reach out to start a jersey auction? And I set a goal of I'd like to get 50 autographed jerseys to put up on eBay from the 1st of December until the 15th of December to see how much we could raise to help in his costs, because not only is he going to have huge medical costs, but he's not going to be able to work much. So I know his close friend Boris Dorozenko is going to try to do what he can to make sure that Hiroki keeps getting a paycheck from his camps in the summertime. But so I started reaching out to teams, and of course everybody stepped up and wanted to do it. Now I've taken it one step farther. I've started to go like, he's a goalie instructor. He loves goaltending, right? So let's start reaching out to the goalies. So here's the challenge, goaltenders. If you're a goaltender at any level, let us know, direct message me, or do send me an email at ithswsales@gmail.com and get us a jersey, a goalie jersey. U of A has stepped up and given me a goalie jersey. The ACHA team at ASU has given me a goalie jersey. The goalies of the ACHA team got together and got their stick autographed by the entire team. So come on, Marc-Andre Fleury, Subban, Auntie Ranta, our good friend Joey Decord. There's a whole bunch of people here that are goalies. This is your chance to step up, get us a jersey. Let's put it out on eBay. Let's raise some money.
Yeah, I think that would be a great cause, and it's always a good thing when all these teams and different parts of the hockey community are stepping up, and all of our thoughts and prayers are with him, and in this process of trying to get better and all that. So yeah, to any goalies or teams who are looking to step up, I think it's for a great cause, and I think you highlighted it perfectly there.
Well, we'll keep everybody informed on it. There'll be more stuff coming as the jerseys come in. I get pictures out there and get thank yous out there, and we'll take some close-ups of them and get them up on eBay as of December 1st, and you'll be able to bid on your favorite team or your favorite player's jersey. Also want to shout out to the ones that have come in. The Arizona Coyotes stepped up. Aaron Cohn, thanks a lot for everything you do for hockey in the Desert Southwest. A team autographed Arizona Coyotes stick, which might be pretty valuable by the end of this year if this team keeps doing what they're doing. And I mentioned the goalie stick that we got from ASU. The U of A and Chad Berman gave their goalie jersey, team signed. So that could be a team that competes for a national ACHA championship, along with Tate Green and the ASU team. So Lindsay Ellis has got one coming to us from the women's side. So Coach Powers has got one coming to us from the NCAA side. So a lot of good stuff going. But, where does the time go? You and I sat here and talked hockey for an hour tonight with a little bit of a interruption when we threw in Josh Reynolds and his Jr Coyotes. But what a great story that was. So before we leave you tonight, let's talk about what's coming up in the future. We talked about Toronto coming to town. It's going to be huge. Then we have Thanksgiving, then Vermont, and then what happens after Vermont at the NCAA level? The Denver Pioneers are making their way to Oceanside one night and Gila River the next. How excited are you for that?
I'm really excited. Anytime a top 10 team, top 10 program comes into Arizona, it's always something to see. I was really excited. I know last year Minnesota State came to town as number 3 team in the country, just to see how ASU kind of stacks up against some of the best. And I think that's what, if you're player, coach, athlete, even media side things, that's what you want to, those are the matchups you want to see. And it's kind of the measuring stick, where are you at, and how will Denver respond is the biggest thing on the Friday night game, because they've never come to Oceanside before. And so it should be an interesting one. I know a lot of teams, we talked about the Olympic sheet, complete opposite of that. It's tight. You're going to have everything low ceiling. You feel kind of constricted in there. I know a lot of teams can attest to that. I think of Ohio State coming in last year, even Quinnipiac.
Boston College.
Boston College, BU, even UMass when they came over here. So it's a different side of things, and so to see the number 1 team in the country come in, it should be pretty interesting. And then I think the Saturday game, the reason they moved out to Gila River is just try to draw a big crowd. And
Pac-12 network, that's a good thing. Anytime you can get some more visibility, that's what you want to do to grow this thing, right?
Yeah, anytime you can get any features out there or discussions just on the Pac-12 network and get it kind of to a larger audience, that's always a big thing too. But Denver's a really good hockey team. They're number 1 team in the nation for a reason, and I thought they were really good last year. They're going to be even better this year. So ASU will have their hands full, but it's going to be, next few weeks are going to be really fun here in Arizona.
Well, the next time you and I get together, it's going to be after Vermont and just before Denver. So we'll be down at College Bar. Let's hope it's rocking. Let's invite everybody out to College Bar right now. Mark your first Wednesday of the month in December. Come on out. Andrew and I will be out there sporting the polos. It's going to be colder, Andrew, I promise, in that first week of December. We're going to be outside at College Bar and Grill. So that's a great lead-in to thank everybody, to thank our sponsors at College Bar and Grill, Behind the Mask, our friends at Super Embroidery, who do such a great job embroidering the stuff for us. Of course, here at the Ice Den Scottsdale and the Ice Den Chandler, always great to come out here the second Wednesday of every month. We got our good friends down at M Drive, just down the street from us over here on Cave Creek Road, providing a great product, and also What Drives You. So look for a new one of those episodes coming up as well. Who am I missing? I'm missing somebody here. Oceanside Ice Arena, how could I miss them? And our club teams, the U of A and Chad Berman, for everything they do for us, as well as Tate Green and ASU, what they do for us as well. So shout out to everybody. There's always room on the bandwagon, as I say. Hop on board with us. Become a corporate partner at ithswsales@gmail.com. Give me a shout. We'll hook you up. We'll make you a partner of Ice Time Hockey Southwest and Hockey Talk in the Desert Southwest.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, a big thank you to all the sponsors who kind of contribute to the show, and it's always a blast. Thank you again for having me on as well. It's always a blast to come on and just talk about what's going on in the world of Arizona hockey and just around the Desert Southwest. It's been a blast, and like I said, thank you for having me, and looking forward to first in December at College Bar, or the first week of December at College Bar.
Absolutely, the first Wednesday of the month. Andrew and I will be there. Trying to keep the crowd, because last time we tried something new and it was hit as a big success from everybody that talked to me about it, was that we were outside for the first time because it was finally cool enough where we could be outside. But the lighting, the fans going behind us, Sun Devil Stadium, no better atmosphere than that. So join us at College Bar and Grill on the first Wednesday of the month. For now, for Andrew Bell, Scott Strande, we are saying good night and good hockey.